So let's move on to our next problem. A rectangle storage container has dimensions of 1 meter by 2 meter by 3 meter. If each linear dimension is increased by the same amount, what increase would yield a volume of 10 times the original volume? So let's start off by figuring out our first volume. So we know that the dimensions are 3 times 2 times 1. So multiply all those together and you get 6 meters cubed. That's going to be our first volume. In order to figure out our second volume, it says that the original volume times 10. So we're going to get 6 and multiply by that 10. And then we're going to get 60 meters cubed. In order to figure out our second dimensions for our second volume, we're going to do L2 equals x plus 3, W2 equals x plus 2, and H2 equals x plus 1. Now we're going to put this all into an equation equal to 60, and we're going to expand and then factor. So let's expand first. We're going to do this binomial times this binomial first, okay? So that gives us this right here. And then we're going to multiply this polynomial by this binomial right here, which will give us this big polynomial. And we're going to simplify that, which will give us x to the power of 3 plus 6x squared plus 11x plus 60. And we're going to bring, 6. And after we're going to bring the 60 on over to the other side, which will give us minus 60 equal to 0. And then after a final equation, it's going to be x cubed plus 6x squared plus 11x minus 54 equal to 0. And now we're going to figure out factors of negative 54, okay? So factors of negative 54 are negative of positive 1, negative positive 2, negative positive 3, negative positive 6, negative positive 9, negative positive 18, negative positive 27, and negative positive 54. So now it's just a trial and error basis, okay? So let's try plugging in 1. When I do p at 1, it doesn't give me 0, so that means it's not equal to 0. So that means it's not a factor. P at negative 1 is also not a factor, as it doesn't give me 0. However, when I plug 2 into the equation, I do get 0. So I do p at 2 equals 2 cubed plus 6 times 2 squared plus 11 times 2 minus 54, which gives me 8 plus 24 plus 22 minus 54, which gives me 0. So that means x minus 2 is a factor of this equation right here, or this polynomial. So now moving on, since we determined that x minus 2 is a factor, we're going to set it equal to 0, bring the 2 on over to the other side, so x equals 2. Now we're going to perform synthetic division. So we're going to take all the leading coefficients of the original polynomial, which is going to be 1, 6, 11, negative 54, and we're all going to factor out the 2, okay? So we're going to bring the 1 down, multiply that by 2, we get 2. So we're going to do 6 plus 2 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16, 11 plus 16 is 27, 27 times 2 is 54. And so we get a remainder of 0, 27 as our constant term, 8 as our degree 1, 1 as our degree 2. We can now write this statement. X to the power of 3 plus 6x squared plus 11x minus 54 is equal to x minus 2 times x squared plus 8x plus 27. So we can see if this is factorable to a lower number, but it's not, so we're going to plug that into a quadratic. And this is our quadratic formula, and this is it plugged in. As you can see, even though if we do a positive root, we're still going to end up with the negative number in our root over here. So that means there's going to be no solution, or in other words, if you were to put in your calculator, you'd get an error. So even if we were to do a negative root, we'd still get a negative number inside the root. So it's going to be still no solution or error. So now we can write this statement. Since negative 8 plus or minus 8 squared minus 4 times 1 times 27 over 2 times 1 has no roots, it can be determined that the dimensions increase by 2, as x minus 2 is the only real factor of x to the power of 3 plus 6x squared plus 11x minus 54. Now we can determine our new dimensions. So we can do x plus 3, which gives us 2 plus 3. So we're going to sub in 2 for all the x's. So we get 2 plus 3 equals 5, 2 plus 2 equals 4, 2 plus 1 equals 3. So now we can write our overall new equation. So we can do V2 equals L2 times W2 times H2. And so we know our V2 is equal to 60. So that means our left side should be equal to our right side. So we're going to set our V2 as 60. And then after we're going to do 5 times 4 times 3. And look at that, we get 60 on both sides, so that means these are going to be our new dimensions. So now we can conclude that therefore to yield a volume of 10 times more than the original volume, so V1, the dimensions need to increase by 2. So the new dimensions will be 5 by 4 by 3 to get a volume of 60 meters cubed.